All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the show. This is Mark with the Fabric Hut, and we're here for another live stream. These live streams happen every other Wednesday. This is 5 p.m. Pacific time where I'm at. We still got a little bit of sunshine left, though we know that'll be going away soon. And then 8 p.m. on the East Coast time zone. So during these shows, the goal here is to have a little bit of fun. We're going to talk about quilts. We're going to talk about projects, products, techniques, ideas, concepts, all those things. We're trying to make this a little bit more regular as we get into the fall, but this is a super busy time of the year for us here. So to get started, I want to make sure, can everyone hear me? I see we've got a handful of people in the chat, so if you can just let me know in chat that you can hear me and everything's good. And then second thing, where are you watching from? That is always helpful. So you can just type those in the chat if you're on Facebook Live or on YouTube Live. All of that is super helpful. Thank you, Ashley, for letting me know that you can hear me. I'm always worried. Today was a little busy and hectic, so setting the studio up to get this show started, I was a little frantic at the end, so I appreciate that. And Ashley's coming in from Utah, Robin from Iowa. For those of you who don't know, I am out here in Oregon. So as I mentioned at the beginning, it's still light, although the sun is starting to set. We're losing those hours every day. And so that's interesting, as we start to see it. I'm curious how the studio will act in the evenings when we don't have light. So Minnesota, Iowa, California, all great here. East Tennessee, North Carolina, Ohio, another California, got some in Florida. Welcome, welcome. Appreciate you joining me. We're going to have a little bit of fun tonight. I got a pretty packed show for you. This will be the first one in a while that we've done where I didn't have a guest. So it'll be just me tonight, but I have a ton of stuff planned for you, and we're going to get into that here shortly. How are we doing on Christmas? Is that a bad word to talk about where we at on Christmas? I just keep looking at the projects on my list that I need to get done before Christmas, and every day that it drops, another day goes by, I'm starting to think, oh gosh, I'm going to be pushing it to get those Christmas gifts and Christmas projects done. So how are you doing with your Christmas gift planning? Have you been at it all year and you're doing great? How's that working for you? Anyways, so that's always on my mind. Yeah, it's a bad word, Kimberly. Lenny says she thinks she might see her block back here. It's possible. It's very possible. We'll talk about the blocks here in just a little bit. I can tell you that those blocks that are on the wall were the ones that arrived yesterday. And so that's a process we'll talk about a little bit as well. But those are the ones that arrived yesterday. Yeah, pushing to get them all done. Yeah, I have this great idea and I want to get it done for all my friends. And Christmas for us as a friends group happens early in the month. So I'm in December, so I'm really stressing about getting that. See your mom's block back here? Yeah, awesome. That's great. Love that. If you don't know, every day during the daily giveaway, I do have a new, I try to get these pressed and ready to go before the new noon, 3 p.m. Eastern giveaway video. It's like 3 minutes long, but I see those. Anyways, yeah, thanks for the engagement. I always love having everybody jump in and get engaged because it makes this a whole lot more fun for all of us. Second on the top row, from the right, I'm assuming. Maybe it's this one over here. Working on the hurricane block now. Absolutely. Yeah, we'll definitely get into that. Before we get started, just as always, a lot of folks do like to make sure they get the link for the discount page. I'm going to put that into chat now for you. The timer seems to be a little bit wonky today. We've been doing some software updates, and so, but rest assured, even though it says time expired, those links will work. So please feel free to use those. We'll talk a little bit about some of the items on there. I got a tickle in my nose, so sorry for this. Hopefully it'll subside here. Weather's changing. I don't know about where you're at. It's changing. So just a reminder, the block of the month or the kit of the month is the table runner for Boo, the Boo Halloween table runner. You can choose that in pink or green. That's on that link if you want to check that out. Stellar Harvest Quilt, the Harvest Quilt with the pumpkins and the stars, is also on sale. Garden Starry Night, which was last month's, is on there as well. And we'll talk a little bit about some new products. But here's one thing I want to talk about right off the bat before we get into the hurricane blocks. So this will be my last live or tomorrow morning will be my last live from the studio here in Oregon. Sarah Hunter, who you might have met on our other one of our other streams, our designer, we're on our way to Houston this weekend for the Quilt Market. Now, it's not the International Quilt Show, which will be the following weekend, but this one is the Quilt Market for the vendors and for the stores. And so we're going to be heading down there looking for and working on finding new products for all of you for the holidays and for 2025. So I'm super excited to be doing that. So we'll be making a lot of things happen from there. Maybe I'll do a live from Houston, from the floor of the show at some point as well. Okay. All right. Let's see. Marianne's from upstate New York in Harpersville. Thank you for joining us. All right, so let's get into the block. Like I said, the link is there in chat if you'd like to check those things out. But let's talk about the Hurricane Project. So real quick history on it. If you don't know, Leah Louise is a YouTube content creator, and she does a lot of work for us. A lot of times when you have the finished quilts on the back wall of any of my videos or shows, a lot of times she's the one that does them, but also she does a lot of tutorials and content that we use, and we partner with her quite often. And the first hurricane that came through, Helene, I think it was, that went through Georgia and up the eastern coast there, a tree fell on her house. And so we created this blockathon project. If you haven't seen that, you can always type in hurricane at our website, thefabrichut.com, and get some more information. But ultimately what's going on here is these are user submitted blocks. Folks chose a donation level for downloading the pattern, creating the block, and then they send the block here. And I've been cleaning and pressing them. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then they go up on the wall. And then eventually they'll go into a quilt for Leah Louise. And then of course, all the proceeds from that donation go to her as well, because the tree smacked right through the middle of her house, split it in two. It's going to be some time before her life is back to normal, but she's a trooper. She was here last show talking about it. And so that's what this is. And so these are all the blocks that came in the last little bit. So one of the things I thought I would do real quick is I get a lot of questions. If for those who don't know, I'm the one who answers all your questions on the website, on the telephone, through email and messenger. So I wanted to hit those real quick during this show, just so that everybody knows where we're at. So the top questions about the Hurricane Project, I'm going to just read them off here as I go. How many people downloaded the pattern? We're about 750. So we want to thank you, all those of you who have, for downloading the pattern, making a small contribution to Leah Louise. Super cool. It's about 750, which is really good. We weren't sure how this was going to go and how many blocks have been received. And I can tell you that every single one of these blocks has a number assigned to it. So this number is right here, and she is 140. So this block is number 140. And over there on my other table, the mail lady dropped off another batch for me to work on tonight and tomorrow. So we are at 140, which is really great. And so a lot of people always say, well, you're going to get a ton of blocks. Well, there's a big difference between, wanting to get involved, downloading the pattern, having the time to make it, and then there's another level of, getting it in the mail. And it's interesting. I'm going to grab a couple of those packages so you can see. So this is today's mail call. And I feel like it's Christmas all the time. And feel free to ask any questions in the chat if you like. But they all come in various shapes and sizes, even down to, letter envelopes, card size, manillas, all sorts of sizes and shapes and ways that they have come in. And we really appreciate it. I know Leah Louise will absolutely, I know her heart is warm by the project. And so that is really cool, but they come in all shapes and sizes. So that's where we're at with it. A lot of customers have been asking, a lot of folks have asked, how much money is raised. I really don't know. All of that goes in. A lot of those orders were tagged, those downloads were tagged with other products that were purchased at the same time. So we haven't run the final report, and honestly, we just prefer to wait and be surprised. And we'll share that at the end, okay? The other question I get is, why don't you do more for other victims? There's other people, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm just going to kind of go back to how this actually started. I'm just a little story time, if you don't mind. So we heard about this issue with Lee Louise, and there's only a few of us that actually meet and work here at the Fabric Hut. I know it looks like we're a big company sometimes, but we're really not. And so Ricardo, one of the co-founders, Sarah and I were meeting, and we were talking about, what can we do? And Sarah suggested, let's do a quiltathon, a blockathon for Lee Louise and make a quilt. And we thought that was a great idea. And I thought, well, can't we help her in another way? And I thought, well, hey, how about if we just put a pattern up for a couple of bucks and see if people would download and donate that money instead of doing one of those fund raise or snap raise things. We do it this way. And so that's kind of how this came. And then the decision was, well, where are we going to send the blocks? And I got nominated to have the blocks sent to my house. So my poor mail carrier is handling those for us. So it's really a very small group. And so I'm the only one that's handling. I don't have a staff of people to process these and things like that. So everything is happening here. So this is why we're not doing this on a massive scale. We're just trying to test and see how this goes. So love to hear your feedback on, would this be something that you would be interested in doing like every quarter? Does this sound interesting? Find a worthy cause or a group and do a custom pattern block and do something like this long term. Love to hear that in chat. If you have any thoughts or opinions on that, like I say, we're just going to evaluate how this all turns out at the end. And so that's where it's at. So curious on what you think and what your thoughts are. And like I said, join the chat. Just please join the chat, share what you think, ask questions. Happy to talk and have that one-on-one back and forth as we all do. So let's see, another question. When or how many quilts will we make? That was the other question. So as it stands right now, like I said, we have 140-ish, and we've got some more coming in, of course. A 9x9 block, which would be 81-ish, 81 to 84 inches wide square, front and back, would require about 162 blocks. So we're well on our way to taking care of that. Now, there are some folks who were generous and donated additional blocks. So like here, this person sent in 2 of these blocks. Some of them were identical, some of them were different. Like there was a different version of this and this from the same customer. Or no, it was these 2. But what will happen is this one of those will go into Lee Louise's quilt. The second one would probably go into a second project. And that one we'll work on and see how many blocks we get, and we'll work with Lee Louise to find a worthy recipient of that. But that's kind of how that's going to play out. So those were questions that we had. And then let's see, last day to mail the blocks. I would say let's make it Halloween. Let's think about Halloween as possibly one of those as the day, because I think we put the date as the 4th. So yeah, thanks for noticing the blocks. They are great. These are all from you all, from our folks, our valuable community. Love these. They're beautiful. I feel like it's Christmas every day when I get these packages, because I mean, here it is, right? Here's 2 of them, and I'm gonna get to open these probably tomorrow. But every time I open it, it's like a surprise, because I don't know what colors and what fabrics. And sometimes I go, ooh, I like this fabric, and I wish I knew where it was at, and I need it. Some of it's just, I'm just blown away by your creativity and your skill. So absolutely. And thank you, Laura. I thank you for sharing about doing more blockathons. We're thinking about it. We're just going to evaluate how this one turns out and assess it. But yeah, and yeah, I appreciate it, Quiltanon. yeah, I mean, we don't want it to be a burden, and we're probably going to be looking for some folks to help out. In fact, when I get all of these pressed and ready to go at the end of this, I'm going to take them to Central Oregon. There's a couple of ladies down there who have volunteered to help. If anyone is in Oregon or Southwest Washington or South Central Washington and wants to meet us down there, send me a note at customercare@thefabrichut.com. Send us an email, and I'll get you the information when we dial that down. But the idea, yeah, okay, so perfect. Yeah, if there's some folks that want to join us down there, I'm probably going to just get a donated conference room or space, and then we'll have all the blocks, and we'll just bring our machines in and sew them together. I could really use some more skill on my level because I'm not great, right? So absolutely. So those, as we do them in the future, we'll probably have more, be reaching out for more folks to kind of help and contribute, but we'll figure that out as we go. But there's a lot of worthy causes out there. We were giving away the patriotic pattern, Star Spangled, for the veterans and for the Quilts of Valor folks. And so we're about that. It's just about getting those things done. So again, last day, probably start thinking about the end of the month, because we're going to cut this off on the 4th, and I'll start organizing the sewing of the top so that we can get it off to a quilter and get that thing quilted for us. Okay. There's been a lot of questions about please take a lot of pictures, right? Please take a lot of pictures. I'm just going to give you a real quick before we move on with the rest of the show. Again, I don't want to just blather here the whole time, but every block that comes in, as I said, gets logged, gets a number assigned to it, and it's picture taken. So every one of them gets a nice bright light, centered, and picture taken. So each one, as I said, this is number 140, 139 here, and on down the line as we go. And so this wall refreshes every day, which is really cool. So there's a lot of pictures, and we'll put a big, either a slideshow or a web page with everybody's picture, with everybody's block, all the blocks received and their numbers. We'll try to take pictures when the quilts get assembled. We want to make sure we honor those folks that are helping us out with that. And we just want to see those tops, right? And then, of course, we'll have a finished quilt pictures. We'll take a ton of pictures, and then we'll bring Leah Louise back on when she receives it. And because I'm not sure that we're going to be making it to Georgia to see her in person, but we'll figure out how to get that organized, and we'll take that up. So that's all there. And then the last thing, two more things. My block looks bad, or it's the wrong size. I'm a little short. Don't worry. There's a few of them here. They come in all shapes and sizes and skill levels. It doesn't really matter. Mine, one of my first ones on the test it came in too short. Totally understand how that happens. And we'll have skilled quilters to help square those things up and make them look pretty. We'll get it taken care of. So do not worry about that. And then the last thing was, I sent a note in my package to Leah. Will you make sure she gets it? Absolutely. I have a special bin where I'm just collecting all of those things, all those notes and little cards and things like that. So that will go with the quilt on its final shipment. Okay. So I want to let you know that those are all things are there. There's a lot of folks asking questions. And I wanted to make sure that everybody knew that that's where we were at with it. So again, if you're interested in helping out at Bend or Central Oregon, it could be Redmond. We'll see where the location, the best location is for us. Send a note to customercare@thefabrichut.com, and we'll definitely let you know when that's happening. And if you can join us, all the better. Would really appreciate that. I dropped the link into the sales page just for those of you who have come in late and are watching us live. Again, even if you're not watching live, feel free to comment. So as always comment. We always see them. I try to respond to every question if it does come in after the live. Okay. All right. Yes, Beth likes the quilt blockathons. Yep, you bet. All right. So let's see where we at. I wanted to talk about some products real quick. One of the things that I had shipped up from the warehouse to me this week, this is going to take us into the overall the project here, the disappearing foursquare that I'm going to talk about. But this product right here, this is our 102, and it's going to be really hard to see it on camera. Okay, so it's because it's white, but this is white on white, and this is a giant charm pack of 102 white on white squares, and it is. I mean, the picture. I couldn't do pictures. I couldn't do it justice. I'm going to try to drop it down here real quick. We'll see what happens. See if we can't get a different angle. I don't think it's going to work. The white is just so bright. Maybe if I do this, well, it's just really tough to see with the lighting. But I wanted to point it out because there are two versions in the shop, and they're all the charm packs are on sale currently. But the white on white is just such a wonderful staple, especially as we go into making projects and quilts for the holidays. It is so easy to have these ripped and ready to go. And so this is the white on white, and then there's a natural on white, and there's a lot of other colors. Of course, if you've shopped this, you've seen things like this, all the colors of the rainbow in this swirl pattern. Okay, so those are all in the shop, and we're going to use these two packs today to kind of talk about the disappearing foursquare. And just some ideas for those of you, maybe some of you are experts and you don't need it. And for others, this might be a great way to just get a bunch of blocks done quickly. And I think that's always a nice thing. We've been talking about half square triangles and other techniques on how to do, 4 at a time, half square triangles, multiple at a time, flying geese. So we've been trying to build that repertoire of tools that we can put into our toolkit and just get things done quickly. So charm packs are on sale. We'll talk a little bit about those. This is a newer product that just came in, and I will drop the camera for this one. Hey, Bernie from Sioux City, welcome. Saw you pop in there. So I'm going to talk a little bit about this. Now, this is a unique product because you don't see this everywhere, and it's just something that we added. We had an opportunity to grab, and these are just straight strips, okay? So you can kind of see the pattern here. There's a lot of different ones in here. There's 2 each. Now, these are weird size. Although this isn't like a true jelly roll where you're getting with the fabric. This is just 9.8 inches. I don't know why the manufacturer made them at 9.8, but they are 2.5 inch wide. And I'm going to drop the camera down so we can see them a little bit. But they're 2.5 inch wide, and they're 9.8 inches long. But they're just a great springy floral grouping that you can totally work into one of your projects. And there's just a lot of different variances. I saw this little bunny here. I thought that was really cute. But I won't go through every single one of them, but these are in the shop as well under our strips. And again, if you're looking for quick projects or quick pieces to strip, or if you're trying to do something scrappy, this cactus one was a lot of fun here. So like I said, just want to show, what do you think about things like this when we find just interesting cuts? I would love to get your feedback on this one, because this is in the store now, fresh and ready to go. But I would love to hear from you folks, because I think you guys are our best sounding board. You're the ones that are tuning in. I mean, this one's great. I could totally see doing this one with some cherry blossoms. What are your thoughts on this? Just strips. Just strips. Just showing up a few more here as we go. Let's see. Betty Ann from Delaware, welcome. Mary Lou from Wisconsin. Awesome. So I'm just showing a few of these different patterned strips, but what would you do with them? I love this one for fall. I want this whole. I want to work with a bunch more of this. I think the ratio and the scale is just right. So curious what you think about those. Those are in the shop right now as well. Again, they're just 40 of them in a pack. They're 2.5 inches wide, so they're already cut, so you can do a lot of scrappy stuff with it. I was thinking rail fences and or log cabin type things with it. So we have those. Patricia, you are busy. I see you on Facebook in the group a lot. You are sewing a lot. Just milled your blocks. Yeah, I'll look forward to seeing those. Yeah, yes, some of the greens in this have been just really great in this strip pack. So I don't want to say strip roll because it's not, right? I like the scrappy stuff, get it at a good price. Um, I think the total here is going to equal just a little, about 7/8 of a yard. But it gives you some options when you need just a few pieces. It's a nice little stash item. I think I'm going to we'll work on getting a pattern for it just to throw together, maybe a table runner or something like that. Yeah, the scrappy stuff, find something that goes with. Yeah, those are always fun. Ella from Louisiana, how are you doing? All right, so now I'm going to shift gears. Now, again, always make sure that you're asking questions as we go. We can bounce around. This is our time, and I'm happy to be here and just interact and have a good time. I've got my coffee. It's still only, it's only about 5:30 now here on the West Coast, so I'm feeling pretty good about things overall. So, yeah, but this is a good time. There's a lot of great projects quilting on. There's a lot of great projects with strip rolls and jelly rolls. So definitely something that you could get into. There's a lot of tutorials out there where they cut them on different angles and put them together. There's a jelly roll race. That is a fun one. I think we have a video posted on our website, Jelly Roll Race. A really fun way to do it. You can get a quilt done very, very quickly. So yeah, the size is weird, Beth. I agree. I totally agree. The size is a little bit off. I couldn't figure out why we're doing that. I don't think I'll see that when we're down at the quilt market this week when we land in Houston for the show. Again, looking, and I get to play with fabric all weekend long. 3 days of just quilt and fabric and machines and technology. Super fun. All right. So let's talk a little bit about the disappearing Foursquare. Okay. Let's see. Chat's popping a little bit here. Folks are joining in. Thanks, Cheryl from Colorado. Joe Johnson from Indiana. Yeah, the stripes are great. What happens if there's extra blocks on the quilt? Yeah. As I mentioned, if there's extra blocks, everybody that's sending a block in is the intention is they want it in Leah Louise's quilt. So in a situation like we have here, and I think there's one here, these two are from the same person. We'll put one of these blocks in. Okay, we'll put one of these blocks in, and then the other one might be able to go to another project for another one. So that's kind of how that's going. And as I mentioned, each of the blocks gets a number assigned. We know where each block came from, so that's always good. So we have a pretty good system developed for that. So, all right, that's what will happen to those extra ones. Okay, and remember, we want to get those in before the end of the month. We're cutting it off on the 4th of November. So I'm going to move to this disappearing Foursquare. So that's taking a charm pack, right? We were talking a little bit about the charm packs, the different colors and options, and these are great to have. And they're things that we always tend to buy when we're guiltily shopping in the quilt shop or in the fabric store. I know that those are real easy to hide coming in the house. I know that my wife doesn't know when I'm buying back quarters and charm packs, but she definitely knows when I'm bringing in yardage. So that's a nice way that I can slip those things by. But, so what I've done is I've just taken a few of these charm packs and just did, just some straight sewing of the squares. Okay. And we're just going to talk about some things that you can do. Now, of course, these look great. You could sew these together and work them out into anything that you like, running out of space to hide from your husband. Oh, that is a true story. I hear that a lot. I hear that a lot. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to talk a little bit about this disappearing Foursquare. Now, there's a lot of videos out there on the internet and on YouTube. A great teacher. I mean, that's really where I learned a lot of my stuff when I was first learning how to understand the business. But what you can do with these, again, all I did was, same side together, 1/4 inch seam, and then married them together, nested the seams as best I could. Still learning, still getting better at it. I'm getting points a little more clear, which I'm always excited about. But what you can do from this point is really up to your imagination. And so I'm going to show a couple of different options on how just a couple of quick cuts here on the board can help you transform this block into something that looks a little more complex, but really isn't. So what we would do here with this block is I would take my grid ruler and I would use my, let's say 1.5 here. So I'm going to use my 1.5 and I'm going to put it right on the seam, on the center seam here, so that I have a 1.5 inch on the side. Pretty simple. Deploy the cutter, and I'm going to make this cut. Okay, that is done. Carefully, I'm going to come over and do the same thing on the other side. And again, my goal here is not to move the fabric. Okay, and I'm going to set up at the 1.5 again, top to bottom. I'll try to do this with my left hand because I'm on screen. I have to get me one of those. How many of y'all have one of those rotating cutting mats? Type in the chat if you do. How many of you have those rotating mats? Because those are super helpful. I can tell you that right now. And so what I'm doing now is then I'm going to move to the top and bottom. So I'm going to do the same thing in every direction. And again, I want to make sure that I don't bump my fabric too much and get myself too far out of square. And because I am a little bit wonky at this angle, this is one of my hacks, is I will then take some painter's tape real fast. Okay, it's life-changing, so I'm going to order one. Maybe I'll see one at the show that's new and improved for 2025, and maybe we'll get it and add it to the shop. I don't know. We'll see. I'm definitely going to look at it when I'm down at the quilt show this weekend. 2 different rotating mats in different stations, can't do without them. Okay, well, again, as I mentioned, Tricia, I've seen how much work you've been doing lately, so that's a pretty ringing endorsement in my opinion. You've been doing a lot of quilting here lately and sharing, which we really appreciate. So again, I'm going to come across the top. We're taking another 1.5 inches off of this one here, and you saw that I taped her down so that I didn't have any movement, trying to keep everything square. If I had a rotator, I definitely would be rotating, right? So that's probably the only endorsement I need. It's just a little cumbersome. We're still working on figuring out how to get better camera angles here in the studio, but it's just me, so I'm trying. Yeah. Oops. Oh goodness, I started to cut and we got to wiggle. Hold on. All right. Just trying to keep everything square and safe. We'll come this way. But the point being here is once we get this done, the idea here is that it's a real simple adjustment here on what we can do with this block. So we just made 4 cuts after sewing this all together. And I just love the fact that, you can do this quickly. You can get an assembly process going, and off you go. So, for example, we can just take the corners and rotate them. Okay, we can rotate the corners around a little bit and get a little different look. We can take our new mini patch. Oops, I got a string. And we can rotate it. a little differently to give us a different look. But there's a lot of ways you can attack this. We can go back to the original, right? We can go back to original where we're here and we were down here. Go back to the original look, and then it's just flipping these around. Kind of get the same look, but you get a little something a little different. And then, of course, the way that you sew it together, completely up to you. But then we're just now sewing across the top, across the middle, across the bottom, and then we're up and rolling again. So I can see a lot of endorsements of the rotating mat. So that is a way to go. No rotating mat, smallest mat, the easy pick up and rotate. Yeah, Laura, that's a good idea. I have a couple of those. I have this one. Maybe I should put this on a Lazy Susan. Maybe I could make that into a makeshift one. Yeah, we'll give that a try this week. Yeah, small one. So I don't think I broke any brains here. This wasn't anything super fancy, but you can kind of see how all of a sudden I have a different block construction. And again, I know we see that little bit of a stretch here. I'm gonna pick this up so we get a little more square look at it over the top. And I need to get this angle. This is a better angle, right? But that's a way that you can use a charm pack really fast and get that look a little bit different. So that's one way, and I think most people understand this one, and I would just sew this together, but I don't think I want to bore you with that tonight. But let's take another one. Let's look at another option. And the other option is going diagonally. So let me see here. One way that we would do that is that we would now come through here and mark on our corners, get this thing lined up right. And I'm using a friction pen. Okay, so I'm going to use a friction pen because friction pens are the ones that are from Pilot. You can get them at the office supply store. There's the fabric pens, of course. I just have this one because I use their products anyways. But I could come down here at, say, oh, I don't know. Let's go 2 inches, right? I can come down here, make a mark here on this one. I'll come down to the bottom here. I'll make a 2-inch mark here. Hopefully I can see that one. It's dark. Maybe I need a lighter color one. Back up here to the top. Come down a couple of inches here on this one. And then I'll come down here to the bottom and do the same thing. We'll mark it at 2 inches. And so what we're doing here is just making a quick mark so that we can cut. And I guess I got to go up here too. I got to do these up here as well. So I need this one here on top. So on each corner, I want a 2-inch mark is basically what I'm doing here. Okay. And by doing this, I'll come down here and get this one. Now I'm going to have my guidelines for making a 45-degree cut. Okay. And for me, quilting has always been about math, and I love that about it. I had a few marks on my thing there. There we go. So I'm going to grab a bigger ruler, my pink one here. But what we're doing now is coming across, okay, I'm going to come across here. We're going to come from this angle here. So from this corner to this corner. Okay, so we're going to come along this corner to this corner. And then we're going to do the same thing down here. And then we're going to come across and do the same thing. So we're making 4 cuts here. And I'll come across here. So I'm just going to make this cut. Nice and smooth. I'm going to reset carefully for this one. And I'm going to come across here. And again, these are just charms, right? So they're just charms we sewed into a 4 square. Probably should have reached up there. That's okay. A wiggle. Okay. Yes, it would work with anything. You could go mini charm if you found 4-inch blocks, whatever you've got in your scraps, absolutely. As long as you start with square, this works. And I love that. Move this again. So now I'm coming from here to here. I might be off. I don't think I got a very good mark here. We're going to try it anyways. It's fine. This is a demo, and that's what it's about. It's about learning and having a good time. And we'll come here for this one. I'm looking for that one. I'm going to remeasure this one. I just don't like where that ended up. I lost my mark. It's too gray up here. Again, I'm just going to double check for my 2-inch mark here. I'm going to put it on the outside of the mat. That way I know where I'm at. And you're going to be amazed by this one because it's going to give us some interesting looks when it's all said and done. Okay, so we're here. We're good to go. Now it's a matter of, do we want to switch things around? Okay, so now I can switch things around. I can come up here by rotating. So I'm just rotating things. Okay, so we're going down here. So now I'm getting that opposite look. You see that by rotating? And then here, we're getting the rotation here. And we're getting a rotation away here. Okay, so now we have a different block. And then if we take this one, I got a clean cut. I can rotate it like this. I can keep it here. I can take it away. But I have a lot of options now by rotating it, by just doing something like this. What do you think? And again, you can get crazy. You can get crazy. We can swap these two out. It's however you want to go. And so it'll also depend on what your fabric layout is. You can go here, rotate it around, play with it. If you want to keep all colors to one side, is a great way to do gradients across a block. So you could start with a light green and go to a darker green, to a really dark green, to maybe a black. But again, it gives you that look. I'm going to bring you up over the top so you can kind of see the dimensions and how this works. So many options. We're going to talk about one more thing as well here with the next block. I won't really be doing any cutting on it. We're just going to use it as a guide to talk about options. But this is really cool. So then when you're putting it back together, you're going to sew your strips here to here to here. Now, I will tell you, I didn't get a chance to sew. We've been busy, of course. I'm prepping. I'm doing my laundry ready for a trip. There's a little bit of overhang. You'll have to square up at the end. But when you sew this together with your 1/4-inch seam allowances, you sew this block together. Again, these are you're still only doing 3 pieces. So this isn't heavy piecing, but it sure looks like it. Sure looks like it. Sure looks like heavy piecing, but you're not, because you're using the original 4 square to get there. But that gives you your look all the way around. And I think it's really cool. What do you think? What do you think? I love it personally. And these are just tags from the seam fold over there. So nothing wrong with that. All right, last thing I'm going to talk about is back to this one with the old red, white, and blue. And I wanted to share with you just back to the same thing that the 2 concepts that I did. So the 2 concepts I just covered, you can change. I used 2 inches to make that. We could have done it at 1.5. We wanted really small squares and really big triangles. We could have trimmed it down even more, maybe 1.5, 1 inch, or even wider. Same thing is true when we were going across here on the very first one where I did it at 1.5 inches. You can break it out here as far as you want. Whatever you choose will work. So as long as every single cut is the same on each side, so each side of your center lines, if the distance of your cuts are exactly the same, you'll continue to keep that uniform shape. So if I wanted really big blocks in the center and smaller blocks out here, I might trim out here You know, maybe this is a 3.5 inch or 3-inch wide ruler. Maybe I'm going to trim here all the way around, and so I'm going to have smaller blocks on the corner that are moving, but the larger block will stay in that 4-patch here in the center, if that makes sense. So whatever you choose to do, let me close my blade here, safety first, right? But whatever you do, as long as it's consistent on each side of your center lines, it'll work out. The same thing is true with your angles. If we're doing on the 45, you don't have to do 45. You can do other angles as long as you're consistent. If it's 1 inch and 1/2 inch here, as long as you're consistent each time you make that cut, you'll still be able to piece it back together in a block. And I think that's the magic of a disappearing square. What are your thoughts on that? Just curious, did anybody catch anything new? I know a lot of you are way more talented than I am. But anybody, did that help anyone? Did that inspire anyone? Is that helpful, interesting? Maybe not your style, I don't know. Would love to hear the feedback on the things that we share. That way I can continue to cultivate and get better at the things that we do share for you. But would really love to hear, you know, have you done quilts in this fashion before? Thanks, Casey. Ella, thank you. Yes, the imagination is huge. Ideas to think about. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah. There's so many ways to attack it. And once we get to this, so let's say that you work and you learn how to do this. And maybe you do a table runner or a little baby throw or something. And then you can then translate this same concept to a 9-patch. Now we add 3x3, right? Same rules will apply. So we're 3x3. I mean, this is massive, right? This is a block, 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 block. But even in a 9x3, we're still perfectly square. So those same rules that we just talked about can apply to a 9-patch. As long as you are square, those same ideas. Now, if you aren't square and you're doing rectangles and things like that, then, of course, you're going to be more scrappy, but the process still is the same, and you'll still end up with a lot of variants and a lot of ways to take some very simple sewing maneuvers and turn them into something completely different. And like we said, it looked like we did a lot of piecing when we were coming across on this one, because we got a perfect pair, right? We got a interesting, point, and then another pair to go with it. So it looks complicated, but it's not. And then you're going to feel more creative. It's a good way to stash bust. It's a great way to get into just quickly moving through just some of the planning. Because I think when I'm doing these things and I'm engaged like this, now I can start to visualize more about the dream quilt I want to make, right? The concepts that I want to incorporate, or things that I can do that takes a very straight, like, I mean, let's just look here for a second. Look at all these different color variations. Yes, it's the same block, but they're completely different. And it's about color. So then as you start to play with things like this, then you're actually learning how color plays in a block. And I think that's really cool. So that was kind of what I wanted to show. And thank you, Patricia. I'm glad that it was helpful. Laura, Beth, thank you. I'm learning how to do these things. Please remember, right? This time last year, I was on the football field full-time. That was my job. I was a football coach. I was a coach. I was in education. This year, last time for the prior 20 years. I mean, I have a large background in craft and creative arts, but this is all fairly new. So I appreciate that the demo went well. I'm trying to get better at these for you. I'm definitely not the end-all be-all. So I always appreciate the feedback. Yeah, and so that's another great point, right? So like here's two that are very similar, but if you rotate the hurricane block, you get a different look on those two side by side. Instead of things lining up there, you end up with a different look just by rotating them. Those are just awesome things that can happen. I think that's what makes this so much fun. I think this is why our craft, our passion, our hobby is so fun, because there's really an endless amount of options when you start to really dial it down and play with it. And again, I'm a analytical mind, so I love to play with angles and measurements and what can be made. That's why that half square triangle demo was so important to me to get done right away. That's why this block and the instructions here were created, where we did one set where you did 2 at a time, half square triangles, and then 4 at a time, half square triangles. 2 different ways to do it so that you can continue to up that skill level and that confidence, especially for a lot of us who are just still learning how, or we can't sew all the time. So yeah, that is where it's at. All right, 51 minutes. I talked a lot. I am sorry. I hope it was fun. I'm going to drop the link again in the middle here. Normally we're done at 45. It went a little long, but you have all been awesome and great. The link is there if you want to pick up some things. Head on over to the fabrichut.com and check out the charm packs. Check out the charm packs. There's a lot of great ones. They're all on sale right now. Picking those things up. Like I said, I think this one came in the mystery bag that was on the website. I think this is where these fabrics came from. Yeah, because see, this one's got the washed purple. But I mean, charms. I mean, here's a stack of charms, and I can play with charms forever. So that is awesome. Yeah, thanks everyone. Casey, Glenda, Quilting On, thank you. Heather, Ella, Bernie, thank you so much for being here tonight. If you have questions, I'm going to stick around for a couple of minutes. I'm going to put 2 minutes on the clock. If you have questions, please let me know. Julie, thank you. Yeah, great. I love that we can get some new ideas from these. I mean, something this simple that we all do, turn it into something else, and multiples of them. Even then, you just start rotating. Yeah, the charm packs are massive. I mean, a lot of places you get 42. Like this one, this is 102 for the white on white, the white on natural. A number of them are larger than usual. That's my goal when I'm helping, when we're talking about building this, options and things that we can offer you as customers. I want to be just a little bit more of a presence. I want to offer a little bit better. I want a better deal. I want you to be able to give you those things in place. Your flannel charms, Glenda, you got that one, huh? Yeah, I'm almost done with mine. I have 1 pack left that has to go into the quilt. We ran out of these. We couldn't get any more. Couldn't get any more of these. These are from Maywood Studio. This is Harvest Rose, but gosh, these flannel charms are awesome. I have an entire quilt that was hanging here before the Hurricane project, and it's almost done. Can't wait to show that off. Any other questions I can answer before we head out? Have to go make dinner. That's the thing about a 5 p.m. West Coast time. But head to the shop. Yeah, check it out and see. Of course, follow the link that I put in just a few minutes ago. Again, I'm going to drop 1 banner across the top here. If you need me, this is how you get a hold of me. Okay. Just know that over the week, for next week, I'm going to be touring Texas. Be in Houston on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I will be in College Station, Texas, Monday night, Waco, Texas on Tuesday, Dallas, Fort Worth on Wednesday and Thursday. So that's where I'll be, but I will be answering emails, handling requests, taking care of you all along the way. Appreciate you all watching. Thank you, Carol, first time joining us. Please take a look at some of the other videos in our library. We do these every other week on Wednesday evenings. So definitely come back, try to have something new. Hopefully we'll recap some of the new things I got at the International Quilt Market. So that's where we're at this weekend. So hopefully I'll have new products or new ideas, new things that are coming, maybe some sneak peeks. Won't be able to sell you a ton of stuff, but right off the bat, because it'll take time to get it into the warehouse. But as soon as we get those, we'll be announcing, and of course you will see them live here as soon as we get them. Casey, when do we come to Arizona? We come to Arizona. I come to Arizona with my wife quite a bit. Her office is in the Scottsdale, Phoenix area. And so we enjoy taking a few trips down there every little bit. I like to come in January. I'll be honest with you. I don't like your heat. So I like January and February. But yeah, we do travel a little bit. All right. Thank you, Sandy. Appreciate you being here. All right, Glenda, thank you so much. Yeah, we'll try. I get to see a lot of quilts, a lot of quilt materials, a lot of quilt stores. So we'll be making the tours and the rounds. Again, if you're ever out there and see me, always stop and say hi. All right, we're going to finish up for the night. I appreciate you all being here. Looks like our numbers are starting to dwindle out, so that's a very good sign. All right, sounds good. Ella, plan on going to Houston on Friday. Yep, right on. Are you going to be at the market, or are you just going for a trip? Okay. Work on your penguin quilt. All right, quilting on. All right. Okay, market. Well, hey, Ella, if you see me, obviously you know what I look like. Stop by. Maybe we can sit down and have some coffee. I'm pretty hard to miss. I'm 6'3". I'm a real big guy walking around, so I'm pretty easy to spot. Kimberly finishing her hurricane block. Going in the mail tomorrow. Look forward to seeing it. Appreciate that. Oh, last thing. I should have probably asked this earlier, but I need to put something out when I get back from Houston for my mail carrier who's handled all of these blocks. Like, I have to put out a bin for her every day so that she has somewhere to put all the blocks that are coming in. What gift could I leave out for her? I mean, I just need an idea. What should I do for her? Poor gal. She stands out there on my porch scanning every single one of these barcodes for like 10 minutes every day. If you have any ideas, drop them in chat. I know a lot of folks have left out. Anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream. Do appreciate y'all for being here. Like I said, we'll be back in a couple weeks, hopefully with some new products. In the meantime, I wish you well. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next time.